Good morning. Myself, Dr. Khulla. I am Assistant Professor in Department of Pediatrics. Today, we are going to discuss growth and development. This is a very important topic for your exams and for your practical purpose also. Okay, we will start with this lecture. Growth and development. Growth and developments are often used together, but they are not interchangeable. Growth and development usually proceeds concurrently from one cell, that is from conception after fertilization. Baby matures ultimately into full mature adult, and this transformation is what we call growth as well as development. Definitions, if we go by definition, growth, it is increase in physical size of the whole body or any of its parts. So whatever increase in size of the body occur, that is growth. It could be quantitative changes in the child's body. It can be measured in various parameters like kilograms, pounds, meters, inches, whatever being used in your part. That is growth. And development is progressive increase in skill and capacity of function. So that is not quantitative change, but it is a qualitative change. It is measured through observation. They are not parameter like we are not going to measure in some sort of kilogram pounds, but it is to be measured through observation. And development occur due to maturation and the myelination of the nervous system. Development is like when the baby is born, he is fully dependent on the mother. With increase in age, with increasing age, he can hold his head, he can sit, ultimately he can crawl, and that is development. Getting the skill to do the various things is development. Maturation, that is increase in competence and adaptability. Second is qualitative change in structure. And third is level of maturation depends on child's heredity. Like maturation also it depends on the mother and the father also. Okay. Factors, various factors which can affect the growth. Fetal growth is influenced by fetal factor. It can be placental factor or it can be maternal factor. Fetal factor. Genetic potential. Parental traits are usually transmitted to the offspring like tallness, structure of the chest, fatty tissue. This is from mother and father, and this genetic potential is not changeable. Second is sex. Boys are generally taller and heavier than girls at birth. Fetal hormones like thyroxine, insulin, growth hormones, and glucocorticoids play an important role in growth and development. Various other fetal growth factors like insulin, like growth factor 1 and 2, they also affect the growth of the fetus. Placental factor. Fetal weight, it directly correlates with the placental weight at terms. Usually it is said that it is usually 5 times the weight of placenta, like normal weight average is around 590 gram and normal weight for the fetus is around 2.5. So it is almost 4 to 5 times the weight of placenta. Many functional and structural changes occur in the placenta to increase the nutritional transport across the placenta. So if there is any problem with the placenta, when you can't share the nutrition from the mother to the baby, the growth will be affected. Maternal factor. This is a major factor. Maternal factors are going to affect the growth of the baby. Like it depends on the body composition and nutrient intake during the pregnancy. So if the mother is taking food adequately during the pregnancy, then the baby will be of good weight. Then there are various obstetric complications which can affect the growth of baby, like pregnancy-induced hypertension, preeclampsia, eclampsia, and multiple pregnancies. All these factors can lead to decreased weight of the baby at birth. Then exposure to radiation, maternal infection like torch. In diabetic mother, weight of the baby is more as compared to the normal baby. Then pre-existing chronic systemic diseases like chronic renal failure, congestive heart failure. Smoking and intake of tobacco definitely affect the health of the baby. Use of drugs and alcohol affect the growth and development both of the baby. Now we come to the postnatal period. Now, when the baby is born, then the growth of the child during the postnatal life is determined by genetic potential, as discussed before. Like height of the baby will be dependent on the height of the mother and father. And then there are internal and external influences which will affect the growth of the baby. Genetic factor. Genetic factors, mutation of single gene defect, which results in inherited retardation of growth, like Prader-Willi syndrome, Noonan syndrome, they can affect the growth of the baby. Chromosomal defects like Turner syndrome, Down syndrome, they manifest as growth retardation. Some genetic defects result in a tall stature, like Klinefelter syndrome. So we can see genetic factors play a major role in growth and development of the baby. Internal factor, IUGR, in intrauterine growth retardation. It results in low birth weight baby, which is an important factor for postnatal malnutrition and poor growth. LBW babies have an increased risk of being underweight, stunted, or wasted child. So if the baby's weight is less, or he had intrauterine growth retardation, or he is small for gestational age, the risk of having baby having underweight, going underweight or stunted or wasted baby is much more. Then hormonal influences, absence of growth hormone, thyroxine, influence the both somatic and skeletal growth. Androgen, estrogen influence the growth spurt and final adult height. So any abnormality in these hormones will eventually affect the adult height of the baby. Sex, pubertal growth spurts occur earlier in girls. It is at the age of 10 to 12 year or 11 to 14 year in girls, and it is later in boys by 2 years. External factor, nutrition, definitely. The children who are suffering from protein energy malnutrition, anemia, and vitamin deficiencies, they have growth retardation. On the other hand, overeating and obesity can increase the somatic growth, but it can also affect the ultimate height of the baby. So we have a broad spectrum. In at one end there is protein energy malnutrition, anemia, and another end there is overeating and obesity, and both can affect the growth. Then infection, the commonest contributor to poor childhood growth, recurrent diarrhea, respiratory tract infection, parasitic infestation, and systemic infection retard the velocity of growth. So trauma, any injury to the growing epiphyses can hamper the skeletal growth. Social factor. This is important in our setup. Socioeconomic level, children they are who are belonging to poor socioeconomic status will have poor nutritional status. They will be more prone to infection. And the children from higher socioeconomic families, they are more prone to overweight and obesity, and both can affect them. Then climate, velocity of growth is usually higher in spring and it is low in summer month. Emotional factor. The children who are living in orphan houses, broken families, they do not grow at the optimal rate. Anxiety and lack of emotional support from the family affect the neurochemical regulation of growth. Cultural factor. Religious taboos against the consumption of particular type of food. Stuff can hamper the growth and nutritional status of the patient. Like in some communities, they don't eat chicken, non-veg food. They can have vitamin B12 deficiency. So cultural factor can affect the growth of the baby. Then parental education is very important. If the parents are more educated, they are more likely to adopt appropriate health promoting behavior. They will take care of the nutrition of the baby, immunization of the baby, and hygiene of the baby. So growth will be more in case of if the parents are more educated. Then we come to laws of growth. Growth and development of children is a continuous and orderly process. So it is not an haphazard process. It goes in a particular manner. Early postnatal period, that is very fast growth. Mild childhood, there is slow and steady growth. In puberty, again, there is second accelerated growth. And after puberty, growth deaccelerates. Now, endocrinal periods of growth. Infancy, it is influenced by nutrition. Okay, whatever we are giving to the infant, that will affect to the nutrition. If the baby is exclusively breastfed or complementary feed started or not, it will definitely affect the growth of the baby. In childhood, it is influenced by growth hormone and thyroid hormone, along with nutrition also. And pubertal growth, it is influenced by sex hormones and growth hormone. Now, period of growth. Many times when we are going to present the case in practicals, we need to know these terms so that we can appropriately present the case. Many times we say 3-year-old infant, 6-year-old baby. Rather, we will use these terms to describe in which category baby belongs. Like embryo ovum is 0 to 14 days, and after fertilization, it is embryo 14 days to 9 weeks, and then fetus is 9 weeks to birth. So perinatal period is 22 weeks of gestation to the 7 days after the birth. Okay, and the newborn is first 4 weeks after the birth. So if the age of the baby is less than 4 weeks, we will say neonate or a newborn baby. And in first year, the baby will be called infant. And 1 to 3 year, he or she is a toddler. 3 to 6, preschool child, and 6 to 12 year, school age child. And more than 10 to 19, we call adolescence. Growth pattern of every individual is unique. You can't compare this baby is getting taller and this baby is of same age, he is not being that high. So growth pattern is unique. Order of the growth in human is cephalocaudal and distal to proximal. So we start from the head towards the feet. First baby hold his head and then we start sitting and then crawling. So it is cephalocaudal. During fetal life, growth of the head occurs before that of neck and arms grow and before leg. So neck and arm grow before legs, head occurs before that of neck and arms. Different tissue of body grow at different rates. Later month of fetal life and first 2 years of life are crucial period of brain development. At birth, head size is about 65 to 70% of the expected head size of an adult. Okay. And general body growth is rapid during fetal life and the first 1 to 2 years of postnatal life and during puberty. These are periods of accelerated gonadal hormones, growth hormones. Gonadal growth becomes conspicuous during puberty. Growth of lymphoid tissue is more during the mid-childhood. Large tonsils and palpable lymph nodes are normal between 4 to 8 years of age. Somatic growth. Skeletal growth is a continuous process during whole of childhood and adolescence. It is steady until the pubertal growth spurt and subsequently slows down considerably. Skeletal is mature once the epiphysis at the end of long bone fuses to the shaft. and it usually occurs in about 18 years of age in girls and 20 to 22 years in boys. Now we'll come to the teething. This is very important. Eruption of teeth. There are two kinds of teeth. One is primary teeth. Second is permanent teeth. In primary teeth, teeth in the upper jaw erupts earlier than those in the lower jaw, except for the lower central incisors and secondary. Okay, and seconds are permanent teeth. They are first molars are the first to erupt. Now we will come to assessment of the physical growth. How to assess the growth of the baby? It is very important. If we assess the growth of the baby methodically, we can catch the malnutrition or the problem growth at the early stage. Now, average weight of the baby at the birth is 3 kg. It doubles in 4 to 5 months and triples by the 1 year of age. And a baby is 4 times of his birth weight or her birth weight at 2 years of age. So if the baby is 3 kg at the birth, he will be around 6 by 4 to 5 months and by 9 to 10 kg at 1 year of age and 12 kg at the 2 year of age. On an average, a child gains about 2 kg every year between 3 to 7 years and then 3 kg every year till the puberty. How to calculate approximate weight from 3 to 12 months? This is a formula. We can calculate approximate weight of the baby from this formula. Expected weight in kilogram is equal to age in month plus 9. It should be divided by 2. So if the baby's age is 6 months, we add 9. Now it is 15. Divide by 2, so 7.5. So at the age of 6 months, expected weight of the baby will be 7.5 kg. So this formula holds true for 3 to 12 months. So now if the baby is 2 to 12 years of age, then expected weight will be age in years plus 3. It is to be multiplied by 5 and divided by 2. So if the baby's age is 5 years, it will become 8, 5 plus 3, and it's to be divided by 5 or multiplied by 5, 40, divided by 2, it will become 20 kg. So at the age of 5 years, expected weight of the baby is 20 kg. Second criteria is height or length. Length is for an infant when the baby can't stand, and height is for more than 1 year. So length is recorded for a children under 2 years of age by infantometer. Infant measured 50 centimeter at birth, 60 centimeter at 3 months, 70 at 9 months, 75 at 1 year, 90 at 2 years, and they are 100 centimeter at 4 years of age. Okay, so at birth the height is 50, and at age of 4 years it is around 100 centimeter. Thereafter they gain 6 centimeter every year till 12 years. For the older children, height should be measured with the stadiometer. You can see in this slide, stadiometer and infantometer, both are shown. Now next is head circumference. It is measured by using a non-stretchable tape from the occipital protuberance to the supraorbital ridges on the forehead. It is measured by a cross tape method. The cross tape method is used to minimize the error. Okay, and non-stretchable tape is used so that we can get accurate reading. Okay, if the tape is stretchable, it can give false reading. Head circumference is 34 to 35 centimeter at birth. It increases by 2 centimeter per month for the first 3 months, then 1 centimeter per month between 3 to 6 months, and 0.5 centimeter per month from 7 to 12 months. And then Afterwards, 1 centimeter per 6 months for 1 to 3 years, and 1 centimeter per year between 3 to 5 years. So we can remember that at 1 year of age, at birth, it is 34 to 35 centimeter, and at the age of 1 year, it is 45 to 46 centimeter, and 48 2 year, 50 at 5 year, and 52 centimeter by 12 year of age. Now, chest circumference, this is also very important anthropometric measurement. We can measure chest circumference at the level of nipple, midway between the inspiration and expiration. It is about 3 centimeter less than the head circumference, like it is 32 centimeter around at the birth, and it reaches equally. It is equal to head circumference by 1 year of age. Thereafter, exceeds the head circumference. So this is 1 year is a important milestone when the chest circumference and head circumference are equal. Now we are going to discuss certain criteria. These are called age-independent criteria. Age-independent criteria are very important because if we don't know the age of the baby, we can use these criteria to determine the nutritional status of the baby. So various criteria are available. First is body mass index. It is to be calculated by weight in kilogram, and it is to be divided by square of the height in meters. And it is usually used to assess the obesity. BMI, body mass index, at or above 95th percentile for age or more than 30 kilogram per meter square is considered to be obesity. Children are considered to be chronically energy deficient if they have a BMI below 18.5. So if it is more than 30, we consider the baby to be obese. And if it is less than 18.5, then we consider that baby is having chronically energy deficiency. Second criteria is mid-arm circumference. It is an also age-independent criteria. We first mark a point midway between the tip of acromion process of scapula and olecranon of ulna, which child hold left arm by his side. We also measured by the Crosstreet method. Mid-arm circumference is relatively constant between 16.5 centimeter to 17.5 centimeter in 1 to 5 years of age. Any child whose mid-arm circumference is less than 12.5 centimeter up to 5 years of age is considered malnourished. Mid-arm circumference, head circumference ratio. This is a very simple criteria and it is very useful in detection of malnutrition. If we divide mid-arm circumference with head circumference, the ratio, if the ratio is between 0.28 to 0.314, then it is early malnutrition. If it is between 0.250 to 0.279, then it is more moderate malnutrition. And if it is less than 0.249, that is severe malnutrition. Then there is another criteria, that is mid-upper arm height ratio. It is also a very good indicator of nutritional status. Normal value is 0.322 to 0.33. If it is less than 0.29, 0.29 less than 0.29 indicates gross malnutrition. Then next is Quetelet's index. This is another criteria. We calculate the weight in kilogram and divide by height in centimeter square and multiply 100. If the value is between 0.14 to 0.16, it is normal. If it is less than 0.14, then that is gross malnutrition. Next is ponderal index. Ponderal index is equal to weight in grams into 100 divided by height in centimeter square. So this is useful in dividing the newborn with intrauterine growth retardation. From ponderal index, we can make out whether the baby is suffering from intrauterine growth retardation or he is albino. Okay. Thank you. That's all for today. And we will meet next week for the second lecture for this topic.